50 years after Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg decided to return to the skies, but instead of giving us a sweeping sense of cosmic wonder, he handed us a frantic corporate thriller that behaves like the Bourne Identity with an identity crisis. The massive online hype would have you believe Disclosure Day is Spielberg's late career masterpiece, a triumphant return to form fueled by a marathon 42 script drafts from David Koepp and a $34 million New Jersey shoot featuring a privately owned railroad system. But despite an incredibly committed, manic performance by Emily Blunt, this highly anticipated UFO return ends up feeling less like a cinematic revelation, more like a beautifully shot, narratively strained chase movie that stalls right when it should soar.
When are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
This does feel like a Steven Spielberg movie with the blooming backlights and cold, sterile corporate offices. And it sort of clashes with the madness of the script's concepts. I've heard rave reviews about Emily Blunt's performance in this, and I have to say she does give a banger performance. She isn't like the typical stoic Spielberg protagonist. As this manic, twitchy, wavelength, deeply stressed. I felt stressed for her how well she acted her ass off in this. And it's scored by the 94-year-old John Williams. It's not like this 5-tone melodic majesty from Close Encounters, but it's more like a droning tick-tock score. I guess he described it as like a slight nudge forward, making it feel naked and anxious. But what is this movie actually about? We start with Dr. Daniel Kellner, a cybersecurity expert for the defense contractor called Wardex, who discovered absolute undeniable proof of alien life buried deep within the corporate servers. Instead of sitting on it, Daniel pulls a full Edward Snowden, steals the data, but a whistleblower needs a megaphone, which brings him to Margaret Fairchild, a local Kansas City TV meteorologist. Suddenly, Margaret is yanked out of reading weather maps and thrown into a high-stakes, multi-state manhunt, hunted by Noah Scanlon, a ruthless head of Wardex, who is burning every government and corporate asset he owns to kill the broadcast before the clock hits zero.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this and give him a spanking.
Now, apparently, Spielberg's spark for this isn't some sort of like creative sci-fi vision. I guess he has a real-world obsession for aliens. He spent like 2 months quietly hyper-focusing on like 50 to 60 page outline after reading the 2017 New York Times expose on Pentagon's mysterious UFO program, framing like a question like, what happens when the cover-up finally breaks? And David Koepp, he wrote 42 distinct drafts of this script. And you can kind of physically feel those 42 drafts fighting each other on screen. It's trying to weld like a classic Spielbergian sense of cosmic wonder onto a cold, paranoid corporate political thriller. And you've probably seen that chase scene with the train in the trailer. They spent $34 million of the New Jersey budget, and it went to like a privately owned railway system across 10 different municipalities in total secrecy to shoot a massive practical effects heavy train scene. And it was a great scene. Now, I have a lot of problems with this movie. I don't think the script, 42 drafts, that's impressive, but I don't think the script was that good. This is going to remind me of a few different things. First of all, that came to mind was Ghostbusters. So Daniel and Margaret are visited by, and this is, I guess, is spoilers. I don't know. I'm just talking about the movie, but so just beware. But Daniel and Margaret were programmed by the aliens when they were children. Daniel got like the technical translator of the cosmic data, like math skills. Then Margaret got like the public megaphone where she's doing the little clicking sounds when she was doing the weather forecast. They're like structural chess pieces trying to communicate to humanity. That's pretty much what's going on, okay? And that's where I got my Ghostbusters vibe, like, the gatekeeper and the keymaster. Like, that's instantly what I thought of. I'm surprised it didn't turn into demon dogs or alien dogs or whatever happened in Ghostbusters.
I am the keymaster.
I am the gatekeeper.
So basically, the script comes down to run away from corporate goons, and so you don't tell the world about the aliens. And I was kind of looking forward to this because Daniel and his girlfriend Jane run away and go into this hideaway place, and then Jane brings up, after he tells her everything and shows her all the videos to, see what's going on. She brings up, like, have you thought about what this means to the world, to where, like, people look up to deities and religion, and what happens when you actually show them proof of alien existence? Then those are the deities, and what will that cause for civilization? I thought that thing right there, that just the effects this would have on people would make a much more interesting story, rather than, like I said, it's the runaway from corporate goons. And that's why I thought it was going towards, but no, it's just a big chase scene. But just, that's what brings you to that. It's just, I think that's more interesting angle for this, like the massive religious and societal friction that would create. And that's why The Leftovers on HBO is like one of my all-time favorite shows. If it like sort of focused on a messy psychological and spiritual fallout of like a cosmic anomaly, rather than just a chase scene to keep people from broadcasting all this stuff. I'm gonna go into Emily Blunt's performance. I thought it was very good, much more deserving than the script needed. I mean, she does the foreign tongues and stuff though, but she really shows like distress and struggles. I wish it was just better written. I wish her character was better written, but she gives a hell of a performance in this. And the cinematographer, Janusz Kamiński, he does this kind of overexposed blooming backlights during, Margaret's psychic episodes. It makes like the alien gifted hyper empathy look like an agonizing physical illness sometimes. I just wish, I don't know. I was hoping for just like the fallout part of this, and that's not what we get. And that's where I'm probably going to go into deep spoilers, like the ending and everything, and kind of like break it down to what the fuck is going on with this and my overall thoughts. So if you don't want to see the ending, my overall thoughts will be spoiler free and in the chapter below. So the climax of the film is like this brush against a clock. I mean, you got Noah Scanlan and the heavily armed Wardex forces successfully breach the KCXE studio, cutting both the main power grid and the backup generator to kill the feed. But as everything goes dark, Jane arrives with the device. It's the thing they hold in their hand. A stolen piece of original alien technology. Margaret uses it to forcefully surge power back into the station servers. I mean, it does everything. Realizing the encrypted signal is broadcasting globally and cannot be stopped, Scanlan just undergoes an immediate crisis of faith. Literally, instead of fighting, the ruthless corporate titan literally pulls up a chair and surrenders. Margaret initiates the special report, releasing massive cache of stolen Wardex flash drives. The global audience watches in a mixture of awe and horror as unedited government footage leaks, exposing everything from the 1947 Roswell crash to a brutal corporate experiment on the capture extraterrestrials. So this is probably my favorite part of the movie, but it's essentially like a reaction video that you see on YouTube. It's like this whole section is. So we get the resolution of the film's biggest psychological puzzle. To unlock Margaret and Daniel's repressed childhood trauma, whistleblower leader Hugo Wakefield builds a literal hyper-specific replica of Margaret's childhood home inside a massive studio by stepping into the physical manifestation of her past. The truth is finally revealed. On February 23rd, 1996, both Margaret and Daniel were benignly abducted by the same group of gray aliens. Shocker, I know. I kind of just saw this part coming, though. To counter humanity's self-destructive, corporate-driven trajectory, the extraterrestrials activated them as latent emissaries, embedded them with specific cosmic gifts to save humanity from itself. Margaret was given absolute hyper-heightened empathy to fill the collective consciousness of the world, while Daniel was given a language of mathematics to interpret the syntax of the universe. Okay, yeah, that's... It's the gatekeeper and the keymaster all over again. In the final moments, Hugo's team wheels a physical guest into the newsroom. It's Vivo 17, a massive, fragile, aged alien that Hugo smuggled out of Wardex black site 5 years prior. It is the exact same creature that visited Margaret and Daniel as children. The alien leans in and whispers directly into Daniel's ear in a high-speed 8-bit binary sequence. Daniel smiles, absorbing the grand cosmic message, and whispers the translation to Margaret. She takes her place at the news anchor desk, stares dead in the camera lens as a global population pausing for the brink of geopolitical collapse, and delivers the final line of the movie. Listen. The screen instantly cuts to silent black roll. So there you go. That's your ending. You don't get to hear anything because it's ambiguous. Basically, what you get is a long reaction video of her telling the world and showing them footage that aliens exist. I mean, at its core, the movie is a struggle over who gets to own reality. Wardex and the government operate on like the cynical belief that humanity is either too fragile or perhaps just too unprofitable to handle the ultimate truth. By framing the cosmic data as proprietary corporate property to be weaponized and monetized, the film delivers a biting critique of the modern military-industrial complex, which I'm totally on board for. And then there's Margaret's retreat from hard-hitting journalism to like read weather maps represents a very modern, relatable desire to tune out the horrors of the world. The movie constantly bombards the audience with like media saturation, streaming feeds, corporate PR, and geopolitical chatter. This is presented as like a deliberate weapon used to keep the population distracted and divided. I mean, these aliens don't communicate through grand booming spectacles. They communicate in quiet binary code and subtle psychic frequencies. And by having Hugo build a replica of Margaret's childhood home to unlock her memories, Spielberg illustrates that looking outward into the cosmos often requires us to look inward first. Humanity cannot successfully step into a wider galactic community until we confront and heal our own buried historical, personal traumas, which I understand why he did that. I mean, I agree. I just don't think this movie is that great. And the Reddit Blankies, they had this interesting take. I guess they see the reconstruction of Margaret's childhood home heavily mirrors what Spielberg did with his own life in his film The Fabelmans. Like Margaret, Emily Blunt, is Spielberg the director whose alien gifted powers is like hyper empathy, allowing her to project and manipulate human emotion. There's a part where she panics about being seen as a messiah reflects Spielberg's own complex relationship with his status as a cinematic icon, while Daniel represents the technical script and language side of cinema. I think that's a kind of a neat take. Kind of explains why Spielberg felt so passionate about this film. There's another theory about like when Margaret speaks to strange sequence on live TV at the beginning of the movie, she's delivering like an activation key. Like the experiencers abducted in the 90s are actually dormant global biological network, and her final words, listen, was a command for the entire global cohort to wake up and seamlessly integrate human consciousness with the alien network. Sounds a little too much like Pluribus to me. And why Scanlan gave up at the end. I guess it's like Scanlan's entire villainous motivation was built on the belief that humanity was too fragile to handle disclosure and would collapse into World War III, which they were already on the precipice of. I guess his entire worldview after he saw that has been proven wrong in an instant, rendering his corporate crusade meaningless. But I don't know, that's not just very interesting to me. Also, I kind of want to touch upon like the ending reminded me of Watchmen. Like, you know, it's a fake alien invasion in the comic Watchmen where Ozymandias created this thing to make it look like an alien invasion to keep nuclear war from happening. It's kind of like the same thing with this. Like, they're announcing aliens exist on the precipice of World War III. So it reminded me of Ghostbusters, The Leftovers, and Watchmen. I was looking forward to this. Early signs said it was Spielberg's best in 20 years, but I gotta pump the brakes on that. While the acting across the board is excellent, and this is easily the absolute best, most fiercely committed performance I have seen from Emily Blunt, the script has some definitive structural problems. It sort of feels like Spielberg's specific brand of cinematic filmmaking hasn't entirely aged well with modern hyper-cynical times. The two major action set pieces are undeniably thrilling and practically staged, but the overall narrative flow feels weirdly restricted. I knew exactly where the plot was going from the jump and from the opening frames. I was desperately hoping the story would pivot into exploring humanity's actual reaction to an impending cosmic revelation. Instead, the film locks itself into a standard, tightly wound corporate chase movie where characters function like structural chess pieces, trying to cross a finish line, culminating in a highly abrupt, abstract finale. Ultimately, I understand and agree with the film's core message about modern media noise and the exhaustion of the information age, and the necessity of human empathy. But I wanted a narrative structure that carried a real lasting impact. It left me with a bit of a hollow feeling. It didn't stay with me, nor did it spark a genuine emotional connection once the screen dropped. It's a good, slick thriller, but it lands just slightly above average for me. So I'm giving Disclosure Day a 3 out of 5. Check out one of these videos by my head. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.